I have a question for you, and that is very simple. What controls the color of our bladder snails? Let's find out. So, this is part two of my experimental aquarium designed to find the answer for that question. This is a planted nano tank. It's doing very, very well. This is about 10 days after it was put together, and this was built for bladder snails, specifically to test their body color to see if they can pass on their coloration. Before we get to that, I have made several modifications to this tank, and you saw a few in the previous episode as well. I'm still trying to find the perfect lid for this build, and while we do that, I am also going to assemble an airstone. I'm using a piece of lava rock with a hole drilled partially through the stone and a small airline connector wedged in there. No glue or anything. It's not perfect, but it's cheap and it's effective. So yeah, there's a DIY airstone, and we are going to include that in this build. I thought about using a screen mesh lid, which is effective but very annoying to work with, you guys. You've most likely seen me struggle with rubber bands and screen mesh and stuff. It's not fun. So we are going to look for a different solution. Here I'm using a plastic lid from a large fish food container. I drilled a few holes in it and for the airline and the lights, and I added a few stones on top just to help hold it down. So there's the lid for now. We'll pause that right now, but the tank itself looks pretty good. I did remove the apple piece that we added in the previous episode. If you didn't watch it, then I should tell you that I was trying to feed my bladder snails with a piece of red delicious apple. I've never tried that before, and I did not know if it would work. But they ignored the apple completely, and I actually had to remove it. So shortly before filming this video, I did add a piece of cucumber in here using my patented steel hook here to weigh it down, and the snails were immediately attracted to the cucumber. One side effect of this lighting that I'm using now is that we will see a bit of a flicker with that airstone as it makes little bubbles, kind of makes the water move around a little bit. It's slightly annoying, but only on camera. In person, it's not really a bad thing. But yes, our snails are immediately attracted to the cucumber. They are headed down that way right now, and that makes me happy. You know, as a snail keeper, I want them to succeed, and they are doing so in this tank. We have a few eggs that are starting to show up here. Egg clutches or egg sacs. They basically lay their eggs in a little bubble of jello. And in that jello, there are tiny little bladder snail embryos that are starting to develop. I think it's really cool. And the adult snails are doing very well. Usually, when you throw a few adult snails in a tank, they can have issues. You know, they can die from stress and things. Now, I did start this population with all gray or white bladder snails. And my intention is to see if this body color is due to their environment or if it can be passed on genetically. And these snails are also quite, what would you say, quite ambitious in the way that they move. They like to float and fly in the water. This is normal behavior for bladder snails, but I swear these guys are a bit more inclined to do that as they're always just flying in their tank. It's really crazy. But yes, I have set this up to test the body color theory once and for all. And I did not mention this in the previous video, but these adult snails, they all came from one aquarium, that brown tank that I showed you. And that tank has been in darkness until just a day or two before I collected snails from that tank. So that tank was completely dark, and that may be why these snails are showing a white body color. Originally, I believed body color was more or less related to the food that they were consuming, but I believe now that the bladder snails, their colors can adapt to their environment. That's my theory. I know it sounds a little crazy, but a pale bladder snail would do better in a dark environment. And some of the more black or midnight colored bladder snails we've seen have come from my very, very well lit tanks and my outdoor projects. So it's hard to say. The snail bloodlines get very confusing after a while, and I don't want to confuse you guys. I also don't want to geek out too much with this stuff. So yeah, but as it is, the tank looks pretty good. This is a few days later, and everything looks nice inside. I'm going to adjust the placement of that airstone because I would like for it to be away from the light, out of the light. Yeah, there we go. And it's a little finicky. I'm still not happy with this lid either. We will have to make some more adjustments. But the bladder snails don't seem to mind too much. Now I am going to do a water change, and I am using a 3-foot piece of silicone airline tubing as my water hose. And you see this material that we're removing from the tank? I believe that is actually remnants of the apple. Might be a little bit of cucumber as well, but I believe that that apple released a bunch of sugars and stuff into the water, and it's most likely not going to hurt the snails, but I'm sure it's not great for them either. So we are trying to build a bladder snail paradise here so that we can study their offspring. We want to see a lot of babies. We want a very healthy aquarium. So we were, yeah, just changing the water. I'm going to dump in some fresh, clean water now. I'm not going to be too careful about it because I do want to disturb the tank. I know that sounds crazy, but with this new airstone on here, it should help things settle pretty quickly. And I'm hoping to get a nice clean water effect out of this disturbance. I know that sounds crazy, but I've noticed that in my tanks that have airlines, airstones, they tend to clear up much more quickly, more naturally. So here I'm adding an injection of mulm from one of the wild aquariums, and I'm doing that because I want to start a population of our larger uh, aquatic earthworms in here, my boogie worms. I want to get them started. We'll hope for the best. I'm still not very experienced with them, so they may or may not take in this aquarium. We'll just keep trying. But the tank looks pretty good, and we do have more eggs over here on the back and really all over the aquarium. These snails are descendants of my guppy tank population, my main bladder snail breeding program. And at one point, they were placed outside in a pond that was exposed to some unknown contaminants, which resulted in some interesting mutations. Snail tails, medusa, quite a few other mutants that we've seen as well came from this population. So I really like seeing their eggs and watching them develop, and I can't wait to share the offspring with you guys. I've tried to do this before, but I always get sidetracked and distracted. So instead, we're doing something a bit different. We're going to focus on this tank for a while, 1 or 2 more episodes. So the bladder snails are maintaining that white or gray body color, and that's a good thing. I personally believe that the offspring will be of a darker shade, but I could be wrong. If we're lucky, we'll have a whole wave of white bladder snails. And talking about taking them outside in an outdoor sunlight pond, these white snails would be more vulnerable to UV radiation. And in a roundabout way, this could cause them to mutate even further if we ever did take this tank outdoors, or if we exposed it to UV light of some kind. I do notice some strange growth on the shells of these snails, and I don't know what to say about that. Typically, they will clean each other's shells very, very well, so seeing so much debris and faint hints of weird tentacles on there is a bit strange. We do have a forked tentacle bladder snail in here somewhere with a strange new appendage. Hopefully, we'll see him in this video. But no doubt he has laid quite a few eggs in this build, and we should have some offspring, some babies from that individual as well. So here we are, about 12 days after setup, almost 2 weeks, and the tank looks really, really good. Our spike rush is growing in the background, that weird stringy plant there. That is a direct relative of hairgrass. Dwarf hairgrass, the same stuff you might have in your aquarium. I found some in the woods, and I use it in my nano tanks. Good stuff. Props if you use similar things in your own aquariums. So the snails are doing very, very well. They've maintained that white body color, and I'm starting to think that adults cannot change color. That would make sense, of course. But we won't know for sure if this is a true heritable genetic trait until we get some babies. So we're waiting for that right now to continue the experiment. And I do want to improve this lid. This looks bad. It's finicky. It's annoying. It's not perfect. So we're going to pull this lid off of here and come up with something better, more natural. All right, so check it out. I found a little terracotta plant pot out in the oasis. It's a little dirty. I scrubbed it pretty good. And I'm going to use this as the lid for this aquarium. I've run the air line down through the middle of it, and I have once again mounted the light on the outside. The tank is a little wobbly for some reason, so I've added a little spacer sticker thing on the bottom, and it stabilized it very nicely. We are going to refill the tank. I did drain most of the water while I was playing with these lids because I needed to do one more water change. The old Terry, the old bucket ponds version, never would I do a water change. I do not like it. But in the modern age, I see that they are necessary, at least when you're first building a tank and occasionally as maintenance. Mounting the light back on the outside has changed things a little bit, but I think it'll be okay. Now in this plant pot, I'm going to have to add a plant, and I'm choosing Wadelia for this. This is a plant often called oxeye, creeping oxeye. You might have heard of it. It's formerly, it was ornamental, and it was brought over here to the United States as a fun decoration. And of course, people let it spread, and now it's in the wild here. I happen to love this plant. I think it's really cool, and it does well in our jar aquariums, surprisingly. It's one of the better nanotank plants that no one uses because it grows up out of the water. But every inch of growth is material that it's removing from your aquarium. So it's taking snail waste and turning that into an inch of Wadelia. It's growing a leaf, it's growing a flower, it's taking material from your tank and, making the world a little better. I think it's great. I am going to add a few stones in here just to help keep that Wadelia from falling over. It likes to grow tall and then to fall over almost as if it was designed to do so. So I'm going to remove the feeding spike that I've been using in this tank. And that's just because I want to get it out of there. I don't think it'll hurt the water, but it's kind of blocking my view a little bit. This is one spike that I customized so it could stand up on its own and fit down into the nano tanks pretty easily. Previously, I was using a full spike like this, which works well. Is not harmful for the aquarium at all, but it's just too large for anything with a lid. And you may know that I need lids to prevent certain flying insects from getting into the tanks. If I could run fish in here, they would simply eat the flying insect as it laid eggs and, the larva and whatnot. But these tanks are too small for fish. I don't want to put fish in here. I'm looking for some kind of evil predator that we could use, but I haven't found that yet. So we're stuck with using lids. And the snails are maintaining a healthy presence in here. I know I should not add human characteristics to these snails, emotions and things, but I like to do that anyway. I think we all do. And you like to imagine, is that this snail, is it happy? Is it content? Is it in pain? I don't think so. They are happily just cruising around. There are a couple of different shades of gray in here, some very pale, some slightly darker, but they are eating and breeding and living their best lives in here without any predators or any form of danger. So, yeah, I think that they could forgive me. So we'll see more of this tank in the near future, you guys. I can't wait till those eggs hatch and we can check those out as well. Big thank you to my YouTube members and my Patreon supporters. Thank you to everyone watching. I'll have another video up next week, along with some fun videos in between. So this is Bucket Ponds. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.